Hello, awesome people, and welcome to the Project Woman Live TV with myself, Abi Adams, and the gorgeous Fay Reid, aka 9 to 5 Menopause. Today, we have two hot topics that we want to discuss. The first one being what has been termed the trust in women crisis, which we're going to go into in more depth. LinkedIn posted a blog article a couple of days ago saying that there's been a decline in the trusting of women in high levels in the corporate world. And our second topic of conversation is the good old Mr. Rees-Mogg commenting on the abortion debate and basically saying that even women that have been raped shouldn't be exempt. Two very strong topics for us to discuss. So here we are. What are we going to go for first, Faye? What do you reckon?
Let's do the women in the workplace, because I'm intrigued to explore why they would feel that women shouldn't be put into those positions because they're not capable or trusted. I think that's a load of bollocks.
Yep.
I think it also touches. Sorry, maybe I shouldn't have said that word, but I did.
I'm not offended. Anyone else?
I think it kind of touches upon what we spoke about last week in terms of certain topics feeling like they're taboo. And I feel like have certain people, organizations latched onto a reason not to give a level playing field.
Yeah, cool. Right, let me read what's been happening. So on LinkedIn, we have Trusting Women Leaders Falling report. According to the Reykjavik Index for Leadership, an annual report that looks at how men and women are perceived in terms of suitability for leadership positions, trust in women leaders has significantly declined during the past year. Across the G7 nations, only 47% of participants said they were very comfortable having a woman as a CEO of a major business in their country, down from 54% the previous year. Experts on leadership and gender warn that fixing the trust gap is vital to eliminating bias in business. So I have put this out. I wanted to hear what's come back. So on LinkedIn, her name is Helen M. She put, interesting to read about this, but for women in tech, this isn't really news. The number of female CEOs in tech has actually decreased by 14%. They're saying that levels of women CEOs have actually risen, disregarding what people think. But tech has actually decreased by 14% in the last 5 years. Female founding companies received 2.8% of venture capital funding in 2019, and this percentage has remained consistent. She goes on in regards to funding, but interesting about tech, about the decline there, even though we're saying that levels are rising with regards to women and CEOs. I put it out in a chat that I'm part of under Found and Flourish, which is a female networking group. And one of the members came back with, this is appalling. When articles are written like this, it was entitled Trust in Women Crisis. I mean, just, yeah.
Why are they, oh, keep going, sorry. Keep going.
No, keep pen and paper, Faye, write it down, don't forget. When articles like this are written with negative language using the term crisis and are put out into the world, it puts the notion into people's heads that this is true, making it hard for us to stand in our power, maybe changing the title something like Women Leaders Are on the Rise, but there is work to be done. Love that. That was from Serena Gasparini. This story's hero line is there are more women leaders worldwide. If they build the same report on men, what would be the percentage of trust in male leaders? Percentage is a really shit way to make a comparison on something. Couldn't agree more. We then have from Empowder, the group in Empowder, someone commented, I think that's why we need to keep pushing companies to promote women to the highest levels. It's hard to argue with success. Much easier to say you don't like something you have no experience of. I think that is very big on that.
Yeah.
For me, what I see is when I hear distrust, we all know it's all about fear. There is a fear there.
Yeah.
What's the fear of women holding these positions? What are the beliefs behind this? And for me, what shows up time and time again is that when we have this projected at us, these beliefs about women's incapabilities in the workplace and in the corporate world, what's the first to go? Our health. Because what tends to happen is women, we rush to the fore because we have to prove that we are good
Capable.
at what we do, capable, exactly. And so the last thing, the first thing to go is our health. You know, women will then be staying late, you know, at the detriment to
Yeah.
not only their needs, but also to their families. Because we've got to prove that we're okay, people. That's what
Yeah.
really got to me about this. That's why I wanted to bring this up, is because we've got to maintain this sense of self-worth. Yeah, people are going to fling shit at us. They always will do. You know, it will always happen. But we need to maintain this sense of self-worth. And, you know, for me, this is understanding our differences that will get us to an equal footing.
If it and I do agree with you, and I'm not disagreeing with you actually. I do agree with you, but it just kind of makes me think, because I was kind of born into the generation of just like, you can do it all. You can have your kids. You can put off having kids till later in life. You can go on holiday. You can go out, party, do whatever you want to do, and you can have your career. And I'm not saying, is there an element of, can we have it all? But I think going back to what you've just said, as in the acceptance and awareness that we do have to give that bit extra than our male counterparts. And whether that's in terms of proving ourselves and having to stay late and being a bitch to prove that we're as strong as the male counterpart, but also navigate having crippling periods, navigate being pregnant and being at the top of the food chain, but still having to prove yourself when you're heavily pregnant to do certain things. And coming back to the menopause, more women than ever have reached the top of their career or just about to hit that point, and they could be crippled with menopause, and then they're just shunted to the side, or they lose their confidence or feel they can't cope. There is so much wrapped up in this in terms of acceptance, and I say acceptance and belief that, like, I'm doing a good job, just reward me, not because I'm a female, not because I'm black, not because I'm this, just reward me because I'm doing a good job. But why is there still a long way to go? Because there is.
Yeah.
And in some respects, because I am on different social medias, and I do like to keep abreast of what's going on, and things like what's happening in America and in the UK to a certain extent, where there's a massive uprising of men feeling, we're not men. You're women reaching that pinnacle of their career. That's a manly thing. They shouldn't be doing that. And I'm like, what the hell? What the hell? And it feels like we're going back. Like, men can't cope. And there's certain prominent men which are preaching this kind of ideology. And young men are thinking this. And I wonder if these men preaching this ideology again, if the corporate world are not secretly embracing that also.
That's a great conversation to bring out in this, I think, Faye, because change requires listening. And yeah, absolutely, it requires everybody. And what I said yesterday was, I could dump a load of emotional debris on this. I can revert back to what's happened to us. I can revert back to the patriarch. I can say all of this. We all know it.
Yeah.
But how is that going to change anything? And what that fuels is these believers believing exactly what they believed in the first place, that women are incapable, they're emotional, they keep going backwards. Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. How are we going to change this conversation? And this requires, and I think what you've just said about these men, this emergence of an old feeling. Well, it's like trying to shove something into a place, isn't it? That has no preparation. And so I can appreciate that men feel threatened, because if you hold that belief, it is going to dictate your response. And if you're not allowed to say anything, and I think this is another aspect that we need to approach, is the sensitivity around everything. Now, don't get me wrong, we have to be conscious of the words we use, but in a way that you are not emotionally dumping on others. What I have been taught to believe is that no one can upset you unless you allow them to. That's hard. It's a very
Yes.
big working process with me. Yeah. I'm not saying that you can go out and say whatever you want, but when we understand that we have a choice to be offended by someone, I think that's a game changer. Because when we look at it, that someone that's spurting out, they're looking
Yeah.
for attention. When I see it like that, I see someone that's looking for attention, that's has no idea really of what they are doing. It makes it easier for me. I can come from a place of less defensiveness, because I think, yeah, that's all your crap, mate. That's got
Yeah.
nothing to do with me, really. What is it that you are really trying to say? That you need attention, that you need a bit of help. There's some stuff going on there. That's all right. There's all that going on. Do you know what I mean?
I love the way you say that. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh at this. Like, it's okay. Let's talk it through. You're okay. You're in.
But this is it. But what happens here? Secret squirrel. They put a poll together. They bring
Yeah.
this out. Dump. So
Done.
now we've got a retaliation going on. So then what happens? We get angry. We retaliate. We spit all this stuff out. Guess what happens? The other side, they get fired up. They retaliate. They'll probably throw in another poll. Do you know what I mean? This is, where does this end?
It's because in some respects I feel like we, and I say we, and I say the universe has kind of moved forward in some respects, like, because you think about certain things, like when my mum first came here from Jamaica, and you'd have in the windows no Irish, no blacks, no whatever. And I feel like we have a more accepting society, and that goes across the board, where men accept that women can be a CEO of a multi-million-pound company and stuff. But then where has this other quarter, and I'm going to call them a quarter because I'm going to put them in the minority, have suddenly gone, no, that's not right? And is it a case of that we just are never going to change 100% of minds, and that we will always have to stand up and prove our worth in terms of what we can do and what we can achieve, and know that 75% will go, yeah, cool, let's go with this. This is the way we're going. This is the way of the world. This is how we've evolved. And there's always going to be a 25%, because I suppose it goes back to, like, you're never going to make everybody happy. You're never going to agree with everybody. I don't know.
But then, as a good friend of mine said, no one can be happy all the time. It's just not a sustainable emotional sensation, is it? Like, and when you appreciate that, it makes life a lot easier.
Yeah.
But let's look at, I want to go back to what you said there about when your mum came over from Jamaica and those signs that were up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Driven by fear, you retaliate in a very small-minded approach. Yeah. That pushes away what obviously you're afraid of. Yeah. But we realize that when we all come together, what great shakes we can make, what we can achieve. Doesn't matter, does it, in regards to where are these messages, where was those messages coming from? You know,
Place of fear.
Place of fear, but somewhere up there, which is filtering down. You know, I look at the likes of, I almost sound like I'm contradicting myself, like with regards to the media, when we listen too much to this stuff,
Yeah.
this is what creates our conflict. It starts splitting our minds. You know, we start to push against people.
Yeah.
We've seen this with Brexit. We've seen this with the pandemic. You know, we get these stories fed to us. Where are these stories coming from? With regards to no blacks, no Irish, where did that story come from that made those people believe that that was okay to do it?
Somebody fed their conscience with it.
Absolutely. As individuals, we just see each other. We do. We're born into this world as human beings. There is no bias there. Culture, religion, condition, all of that jazz is what shapes it. Where is that coming from? And as we talk about this now in regards to this women in crisis, like, what's the source?
I think it's got mangled. I think the source has got mangled, and I think there's various different sources feeding into people's subconscious and fears. That's,
I mean, go on, Faye. Sorry, Don.
No. That's kind of how I kind of summarize it, and you'd be surprised. And I think you're right. I guess because we do soak up what we read and what we listen to and what we see and such forth. And this is slightly off topic, like the lady that went to Buckingham Palace and the other lady was asking her where she was from, and it's caused a bit of an uproar and stuff. And there have been multiple, even though she wasn't even there, so many people have linked it back and mentioned Meghan Markle and such forth. And to the point, and the media hasn't helped, to the point this morning I read something.
There's hair coming out.
Oh, bless her.
It's my CEO. Always attends my meetings. What's that, darling? There's hair coming out. That's okay.
There's hair coming out your phone.
There's hair coming out my phone. Wow.
Okay,
that's a new
cool.
one.
We need to address this, Abby.
I'll see if there's an app for that. There you go.
Okay, cool.
Back in a minute.
And this woman actually said, she goes, now the more I think about it, I'm 100% sure Meghan orchestrated that incident at Buckingham Palace. And I'm like, this is the shit we're dealing with. These are the adults that walk amongst us. So people are influenced by so many different sources. And I think, I don't know, I think underlining it, I think it's who you are as a person, whether you adopt that thought process, whether you believe a woman is not capable of being trusted in the workplace because she's emotional, or because she's this, or because she has to take time off to have a baby. And I do think it's just in you, the same way it's in you where someone could live in a village that has no black people, but will fight for black rights. Do you know what I mean? He's not surrounded by black people to make connections, but he knows what is right and what is wrong. So I think people have it in them. They are influenced by what's around them, media and other people. And I think we will always be fighting. I'd like to think there'll come a day when we don't, but I do think we will always be having to prove ourselves. And I think we're now having to prove ourselves in a different sphere from what we had to prove ourselves 20 years ago.
Well, I posted on social media, but then I had a little think, because I said that we are very aware that most of the people at the top of these companies are men. You know, and I've spoken to so many women on the ground in regards to initiating women's health in the workplace. And, you know, I'm met with comments such as, oh, you know, the board didn't think menopause was relevant right now, or the board didn't think that female health was relevant right now.
No.
Oh, and then all of a sudden, now they think it's relevant. But then I thought, well, I wonder if any women did vote on this, because I've had some conflicting conversations, and I'll never forget when I worked in Mayfair, like 20 years ago now. I worked for a big property company, and I used to work for one of the only, she was one of the only females on the board at the time. and the women on the floor would slag her off.
Yeah.
You know, she was a bitch, she was this, she was that. But we were surrounded by men who fed that feeling and thought into all of these young women on the ground. I tell you, I used to say to all of these other girls, but she's got to shout 10 times louder than anyone in this office to be heard. No one listens to her. Of
Yeah.
course she's going to scream. Of course she's going to shout. I'll tell you what, if I had to turn up to this job 5 days a week and do what she did, I'd become a bitch and all, because you just get fed up with it.
It's rubbish. It's absolutely rubbish. And I do think, and it's funny, you just mentioned like the women on the floor would slag her off as well. And I've spoken to women like who've left their jobs because they just couldn't cope with the menopause and they didn't feel supported. And sadly, a lot of the time, it was their women bosses that didn't support them and made them feel like shit.
Yeah.
To the point they left. So
Because
as
they're
much
in fear. They are in fear, aren't they? Let's look at it. When you said earlier on about fearing women who become pregnant, fearing women that go through menopause, my brain just ticked over and I thought, these men have mothers.
Oh yeah.
Are you afraid of your
Wives.
mother? And you know, we all come back to that sense of rejection, don't we, really, when you think about it? When you're afraid of something, there's a fear there. What's the fear from? What's the personal experience? What happened? Like, what happened in your childhood? Tell me.
Yeah. Why are you so messed up?
Why are you inflicting this on everyone else?
One of the ladies I know, Tian, she did a post the other day, and she was quite open, and she just said, she goes, I see a therapist. I've seen a therapist for many years. And she goes, I see a therapist as taking care of myself. She goes, I take care of myself physically. Me seeing a therapist takes care of myself mentally. And the way she kind of summarized it, it just was like genius.
Yeah.
It's genius. Because I think we store, and women, look, okay, men are known for not talking about things, but as women, we take on a lot and we store a lot inside of us and just carry on. And I've got better over the years, but I very much was just like shut down, just kept it inside. And outwardly, I think I'm doing okay. But outwardly, outside of that, family and friends would know, oh, what's going on? Faye's not doing too good. But I thought I was holding it together. And that's because we just take it on and we just hold it in and we don't discuss. But try being a woman in a top job and then going into their male counterpart's office and going, oh, I just need to have a chat. I mean, it does happen, but it's very rare.
Yeah.
To be able to offload and just go, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm thinking. No, that's like a nail in a coffin, isn't it?
There's so many like memories bursting into my brain right now when I was working uptown. You know, I remember one of the guys really upset me and me going into the toilet and just bawling my eyes out. I did start to cry in front of him and you could just see his face just like going backwards. Oh my God. And then inside I'm saying to myself, don't let him see you. Don't let him see you. Running to the toilet. And you think, oh my God, when I look back at that, I played right into his hands. But then if we had this space where men and women could go with their emotions to be expressed in a healthy manner, perhaps I wouldn't have bawled my eyes out in front of this colleague. Perhaps I wouldn't have had to have gone. I mean, God, it's so cliche. It's so old film cliche, isn't it? She runs to the toilet to bawl her eyes out. You know, we don't need to be there anymore, do we? Come on. Is anyone else, if anyone's watching, by the way, is anyone else still doing this? Are you still going to the toilet to cry if you work in an office?
Oh, I've done it. I'm sure every woman at some point has done it, and probably some men as well, but they're never going to admit to that.
We deserve more.
Yeah,
we need the cry pod.
We need the cry pod. It would be permanently full. We know that.
It'd be very wet. Sounds wrong. Sounds very wrong.
Very wrong. Another discussion.
John.
I don't know. I feel, you know what I feel like? I feel life in terms of advancement and equality across the board has gone in stages and jumps. And I'm going back from the 70s to the 80s to the 90s and people being accepted. I feel like the COVID lockdown was a massive uprising and surge with people being given jobs. I'm trying to get my words out. So basically, George Floyd died. And every company in the world just went, oh, we need to look at our diversity policy, which included having women in certain positions on board members and stuff. Massive push. That's really died down a little bit, I would say. And I mean, I make no bones about it. During COVID, I was unemployed and I did a lot of contract work. And I would say, I've said it to my friends, I said it to my family, and I'm just like, it's a good time to be black right now because the opportunities are being thrown at me left, right, and centre. And like, I was just keeping it real because that's what it was. It's just like, all of a sudden, it was a good time to be black.
Is that a hashtag?
Yeah, hashtag good time to be black. But I can see that slowly slowing down. And during that period, and I was thankful that I was able to find work and stuff, I always just said, I just wanted to be accepted on my own merit. And you companies, and it wasn't just a minority, it was loads of companies. I'm like, why have you not already got black people or women in senior positions sitting on those seats? Why?
Yeah.
And I feel like there was a massive push then, and some companies are still trying to make sure they address it and make sure there's a level playing field for everyone. But it's definitely slowed down. Definitely.
Do you know what? Because I want to bring this to a close, face, so we get to talk about the second subject. But Ruth Ramsey has put, I would, if I did, run to the loo to cry if I worked in an office. Yes, yes, I totally agree.
There is that. There is that.
So what I want to, do you know what I feel this really plays into is it's all about integration. And you saying about this influx of, you're talking about when great time to be black, when there was more employment and open doors for you. Is this the same thing with women? They've just done it as a lip service. Like most things, it comes out in the open. It's a lip service. We hear this so much, especially in regards to female health. We talk about it. We put the most mediocre of approaches in place that don't serve these women. They don't feel supported. It makes no bloody difference. But now it's not just the women that it's impacting, it's the men as well, because really and truthfully, what they're saying is they feel left out.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the integration, aren't we? That's what we need to be working on. If you agree out there, please send us a note. Please get in contact. We want to hear how you're feeling and what you're feeling. Next conversation is, let me get this up. He strikes again. Senior Tory MP Jacob Rees-Mogg launched an astonishing attack on abortion rights in the UK, calling the legal procedure morally wrong. I was going to say moggy wrong. Morally wrong.
Oh, please
Moggy wrong and a cult of death. The ex-cabinet minister said it was wrong for the state to allow abortion and refused to agree that the right to termination of pregnancy should be protected, even in cases of rape and incest. I mean, I got one question for this fella, and that is, if your wife was raped, would you take on that child? Would you expect your wife? Would you expect your wife to go through with that pregnancy after she had been raped? And then would you take that child on? I would really like to put that question to you.
I wish they had, because he was in front of a panel when he was questioned and stuff. I am biased because I think he's a complete waste of space. So anything he says always just manages to rile me up. But put him aside. And this is kind of an add-on from the US when they had passed that abortion bill, so to speak. And maybe I'm just living in the wrong era, because I'm like, how can these duffer old white men, and actually some black men, stand up and go, right, this is what I'm going to decide for you. Right, I'm going to decide for you, this is what's going to happen in your life should XXXX happen. And I'm like, what the hell? What, like, who are you that you think you have the right to dictate what happens to my body? My body. I don't know you, you don't know me, but you're going to dictate what happens to my body. Now, whether you believe in abortion or not, a woman, anybody, no, not just a woman, anybody has the right to say what happens to their body. Some man who I've never met, who lives in the dark ages, who is not equipped with real life realities, because he's not. He lives in this bubble where he thinks this should be done, that should be done, and I've got a wife, I've got 10 kids who I dress like they were born in 1850, and sorry, I don't like him. Have I said that already?
Not Faye, I couldn't tell. Honestly.
No, but seriously, it's just like, my thing is with a lot of these people, can you just live people's lives even for a week or a month? Do the life that they live, encounter the people that they encounter, live on the estate they live if they're scared to go out after dark and there's a chance they could be raped. Go and live with a woman that's been raped for a month and see the after effect that has had on her.
Yeah.
Like, it's a bit like, how dare you? How dare you stand up there and preach morality to me when you are the opposite of morality?
Do you know, sorry to interject, Faye, I remember when that first got passed in America, I was listening to the radio and a woman came on and she was talking about, she was from Ireland and she had she was pregnant, she became pregnant and they found out the baby wasn't going to survive. It had such a severe defect, but she had to carry that child full term.
Yes.
She wasn't allowed to terminate that child. And she said giving birth, I mean, it was incredibly painful. I mean, it was awful for this woman, incredibly painful. And she gave birth to her dead baby. She went through that whole process. I mean, I can't even put into words. There are no words. She went through that. I mean, because she wasn't allowed. She wasn't
make a
allowed.
decision.
Her body.
Yeah. And that is what we're dealing with. That is people dealing with people making decisions which are so out of touch with reality. They're making decisions on women that can't afford to feed their kids. They're making decisions on women who have been traumatically raped and thinking, well, that's unfortunate. There's a child in there. You have to carry it. And it's, I don't want to dismiss people that believe in the sanctity of life. That is your choice.
Absolutely.
But can we give the other side a choice as well?
Absolutely. I mean, it shouldn't be used as a pill, if you know what I mean, in the fact that I don't really want that child. I don't believe in that at all.
No, I don't.
But situations, yeah, absolutely. Ruth has said, I wonder whether Rees-Mogg would have a further opinion based on whether the fetus was female or male chromosome.
Which is really true. And when I watched him yesterday, I was just like, I wonder what your decision would be if you'd been raped.
Yeah. But with, like you said earlier, you said about the archaic approach and mindset. I mean, again, you're not giving us much. I mean, it should be us trusting you. I mean, at the moment, we've got this about women. We've got this with regards to abortion. I mean, I'm surprised any women are talking to you. You know, there is we are creating a massive divide in something that we should really be working to bridge together. And I mean, I use my husband as an example, and he, you know, he's one of my inspirations in life. I never forget when the female football team, it was in the paper, finally agreed that they could be paid for their maternity leave. And I read this out to my husband, and I went, this is fantastic. I mean, it should be a given anyway. And he went, but I already thought they had that.
No.
So you can see, I sometimes feel as well that this generation of men that we have is they just don't realise. They believe that it should be like this, so it is.
Yeah.
You know?
I think those are the ones that are kind of like forward thinking. Those are the ones that just assume that, okay, this is what happens in life. This is, women do get maternity pay and such forth. These are the ones that are just think life is okay. But there's a big raft of society and little pockets like the female football team. And there was something else as well I read. I don't know if it's in terms of their underwear to do with tennis or something that came out as well.
Yeah.
That they've just let, is it because they can wear dark underwear in tennis, or I don't know.
Yeah, they weren't, it was white, wasn't it? White underwear.
Yeah, there was something. Yeah. And it's just like, how is it 2022 and these decisions are just being made? I feel old. And I'm like, 2022.
But we would love to know what you feel. I mean, this is an ongoing conversation, right? I mean, with regards to abortion,
it's a hard one, because
where do you stand is what we want to hear.
It'd be interesting to find out, because I think you have to respect people's views and what they want, and you can't take and you can't diminish that. But what I don't like is somebody making my decision for me on something which is so fundamentally important and serious. Because the knock-on effect of a woman not having the choice, we all have to live with our choices. If someone falls pregnant and has that child, that's your choice. But ultimately, the knock-on effect, if you're forced to do something that you don't want to do, mentally, it could be 10 times worse. You could be put into a situation where you just don't cope. You don't love that child. And that child ultimately ends up having the worst life ever.
Absolutely.
And goes into care or gets adopted and just doesn't, do you know?
Well, that's all right. Rees-Mogg ain't got to deal with that, is he?
No, he hasn't got to deal with it. So he don't care. And then they worry about the welfare system. Oh, too many people are on benefits. Well, actually, do you know what I mean? There's so many different strands to it. And I think everyone should be given a choice, and everyone's choice should be respected.
Absolutely. Where do we go from here? Like in both conversations, where do we go? Because I feel that retaliation isn't the way forward. We've been doing this for too long now, right? It's almost like what's that saying about insanity? Doing the same thing over and over, the same thing over and over, and expecting to change. We are still here, and like you said, Faye, it almost feels like we're going backwards.
Yeah.
Why are we going backwards? Well, because we're doing the same thing over and over again. The conversation and communication needs to change, and it needs to integrate everyone's. That sounds hard, but it needs to integrate everyone to come together. All right, we're not going to agree on everything, but we've got to integrate. And for men and for women to understand each other, you know, we can't keep trying to control each other. I mean, is that what they think? That if a woman comes into power, they're going to lose control, that we're going to take control? I mean, we've got enough on our plate. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
You know, we're just, all we want is equality, but not to be the same as a man. I don't want to be the same as a man. I realise that now. You know, all of these wonderful feminist females, women before me that have fought to get the voices heard and to be seen, and, you know, they fought to be more like a man, like to be as hard as a guy. I don't want that. I realise that my physiology is different and I've got other things that I can offer. I don't have to be a man, a woman in a man's world. I don't want to be honest with you. I want to be a human in a human world.
Yeah. I think it goes back to just treat me with respect and don't look at me as a woman with XXX. Look at me as a human who is actually doing a good job and say, hey, we're thinking there's this role come up. We think you might be good for it. What do you think? End. Do you know what I mean? Don't think about if I go on.
So we know that most of our beliefs, well, a lot of our beliefs come from obviously our family. So how do we support and you know, if they are from a misogynistic, racist approach, we're looking at the schools, aren't we? We're looking at our schooling. What is going on at the schooling? I mean, that in itself, I mean, that's a whole chat. That's a whole chat. We've only got 10 minutes left.
That's a whole chat, but I do think family and friends do influence that as well. Absolutely.
It plays into each other. But, you know, what are schools focusing on at the moment? And my little boy comes home, he's terrified of maths. It's just maths. What about how to live? What about life skills?
You're not going to get that in a state school. You're just not. And that's
do you get it in a private school?
I think you get it more in a private school and you'd get it more in a specialist, as in the independent schools. I think they might look at giving you life skills. I think our state schools, and I don't know, I'm not a teacher, so I don't want to slag it off in any form. I think our state schools are very much have a curriculum they have to stick to for them to be marked as an aggregate school. So when it comes to life skills, that's not even there. I mean, they've just introduced menopause as part of like the biology thing into schools. And you can tell they're just going to literally touch upon it. It's not going to be, how do you deal with this in the workforce? So you go to work one day and your boss is really grumpy and snappy. What do you do? Go to the toilet and cry. Yeah.
Completely distrust her. Yeah. Do not trust her and go to the toilet and cry. Yes. I mean, what a way to end our conversation.
I like that one.
But let's not take this serious. I was going to say on a serious note, let's not take this seriously. Let's not fall into that mind trap.
No.
Because that's all they are. You know, this is why we create these conversations, to air them so we know what's going on, but then so we can rise above it. And so for me, with regards to the first conversation on, you know, CEOs, high-ranking women, keep doing what you're doing, but don't let your health suffer. In fact, let your health be the platform for all of your successes at every given moment, because you will only go higher as healthy as you are. Yeah, because remember, that is your foundation. And in regards to the abortion, my goodness, we have just got to stand together on this one. Really stand together and keep talking to I'd say the right people, but what does that even mean? I say keep talking to your communities. This is really important. Keep the conversation alive and let them know that they are not alone.
Yeah.
You know, if a woman is going through this and she is afraid, you know, abortion is an option that she wants to take for her own reasons, you know, all she needs is an ear and someone to lean into. And I think this is, you know, this becomes hard, doesn't it? I can imagine in COVID times, good Lord. I mean, in-person meetings, being with people, community, so strong. Don't give up on that.
Such a difference. It does make such a difference, Abby. It really does. And it's funny, kind of ending this, because I'm going to ask you what your song of the week is. I'll tell you what mine is, and I just think it's quite apt, actually. On Spotify, they give you your year unwrapped, so it tells you what songs you've listened to the most this year, songs and artists. And one of mine was The Sounds of Blackness, Optimistic. And I just like, very apt.
Just writing this down because I will put it in the chat. Okay, mine is, I had to write his name down because it came into my, on Spotify. Perhaps we should get Spotify to promote us. It came on my Spotify the other day. His name is Snorri Hallgrimsson, and it's called Chasing the Present. I very much love the new modern classical, and I tell you what, it came on, and I was reading all of this that was going on, and my heart just went boom, boom. Like, it's all good. Come back to love. Come back to love. Come back to love. Don't forget, with vibration. Love, 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 love.
Amazing.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us, Faye. Always good to be here with you, my sister.
Love the chat. Love the chat.
Faye is sunning herself somewhere tropical next week. No, she's not. I don't know where she's going. Where are you next week? The 9th.
Next week, I'm filming some stuff for the BBC.
She's filming some stuff
for the BBC. So Abby might be solo.
No, I'm not. I am with Ruth Ramsey. She's joining me as a guest on the panel. And Ruth, we're going to talk about sex.
Oh, I'm going to listen.
We're going to talk about sex.
One.
We're going to talk about masturbation. We're going to talk about ways of alleviating stress. We're going to talk about sex in a way that is great for women. And if it's great for women, it's going to be great for men, isn't it?
Oh!
Hello. Ruth, thank you for joining us, darling. I can see you. I loved your comments. Thank you, darling. Faye, awesome as always. And thank you, wonderful humans. We will see you next week.
See you later, guys. Bye.